This revision video is for the poem Hawk Roosting by Ted Hughes. Now, in the poem, Hughes literally describes a hawk sitting in the high trees watching over the world. It is a dramatic monologue where the hawk actually speaks about his thoughts and his feelings. Metaphorically, however, so under the surface, Hughes explores ideas about power, powerful leaders, particularly dictators and fascist leaders throughout this poem. Now, it is important to understand the context of the poem. Ted Hughes, the poet, was born in 1930 and he grew up in the countryside, and therefore he has a strong interest in nature, which is why many of his poems include the theme of nature, just like this one. Also, because of the fact that he was born in 1930, he grew up experiencing World War I as a young boy, which may have influenced his ideas about leadership and about war as well. And there is some elements of war explored through the poem itself. He also, as a young man, served in the RAF. So he had a military background, and this may have also influenced his ideas about leadership and war, which are then explored within the poem. So, some of the themes then that we find in Hawk Roosting. First of all, it explores themes of nature. It talks about the hawk in the trees. It talks about predators and prey. It explores the idea of power. This hawk feels as if it has a large amount of power, and therefore that theme is explored within the poem. Same as leadership. So this hawk in this dramatic monologue talks about himself as a leader. And as I said earlier, there are some kind of subtextual comments on war throughout the poem as well, which we will discuss. So in terms of the structure, the first thing to note, which I haven't mentioned on here, is that this is a dramatic monologue. Dramatic monologues are often the speech of one persona, one character, and they are first person, just as this poem is. As well as that, it's structured as 6 quatrains. Quatrains are stanzas with 4 lines. So it has a very, very fixed, very regimented structure, which implies the ideas of control and power, which are then explored in the poem as the hawk talks about his power and his control over nature and over the world. Some of the lines are much shorter, though the lines are of different lengths, and the shorter lines often have a dramatic impact, as you'll see when you read over the poem. The first 2 stanzas talk about the hawk's physical superiority. So superiority means that he feels as if he is above or better than the other animals and the other aspects of nature. Both in what his body is like, because he talks about being hooked, etc., and also where he can sit, because he can actually sit on the high trees and look down over the rest of nature. Stanzas 3 and 4 reveal his power of nature and how he holds everything, including life and death, in his claws, because as a predator, hawks obviously have the ability to kill smaller animals. The final 2 stanzas, they justify his actions, so it's the hawk's justifications of his own actions. He explains why he's not just right, but he also acts without deception. He feels like he has the support of the sun to prove it. He feels like he acts as this dictator, this leader, this person, or this animal in control, and he does so without kind of regret and without sorrow. Okay, so I'm now going to go through a few of the quotes for you. So in stanza 1, he talks about how in sleep he rehearses perfect kills and he eats. So the fact that he does it in sleep, so you've got this prepositional phrase, in sleep, prepositional phrase because the main part of this phrase here is the preposition in. And that implies the fact that he can do this even as he sleeps. Now, obviously, he's dreaming, but it also suggests a sense of ease for him. He does this easily and without worry and without stress. The fact that they are perfect kills and eat, so this adjective perfect obviously implies his own self-confessed perfection, so he believes himself to be perfect. It also implies a sense of arrogance. Okay, next quotation that I'm going to look at, he talks about how the earth's face upward for my inspection. Now, the earth's face is a metaphor for obviously what he can see as he looks down at the earth. And he feels that it is upward, which is a preposition, for his inspection. He feels that the earth has been positioned specifically for him, and so that he can inspect it. And therefore, again, this implies a sense of arrogance and a sense of power. He feels power. He feels like he can look over everything and rule it. Now, when the hawk is discussing the fact that he holds the branches in his claws as he sits, he actually uses the metaphor, now I hold creation in my foot. So the fact that he holds creation suggests that he feels godlike. This let's start with this noun, creation. It's actually an abstract noun, to be specific. Obviously, when we think of creation, we think of the the Christian story of God creating the earth, and therefore it suggests that he thinks he is godlike. The fact that he holds it, this sense that he holds it, this verb, suggests control and also possession and ownership. He feels like he owns nature and he owns the earth. Finally, the last quote that I'll talk about, he says, the sun is behind me. Now, the sun obviously is something necessary to us, something bigger than us, something that if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be able to, sustain our lives. And he feels that the sun is behind me. Now, this preposition, behind, suggests that he feels supported by the sun. He feels like the fact that the sun is behind him suggests that the sun justifies everything that he is doing and everything that he is thinking. Again, it makes him seem quite godlike. You could also interpret this preposition behind as suggesting that the sun is less important, perhaps, which again suggests a real sense of arrogance, suggests that he feels like he's better than everything, even the sun himself, or the sun itself, sorry. Now, many people have interpreted this poem as being not just about a hawk, but metaphorical for a fascist leader. So just like Hitler, for instance, there are a lot of allusions to a dictator that obviously would be relevant to Ted Hughes because he grew up during World War II. So this interpretation that perhaps the hawk does metaphorically represent a fascist leader such as Hitler, that could be supported through the context, through the fact that Ted Hughes was born in 1930. Okay, finally, links to other poems. So obviously both Ozymandias and Hawk Roosting both explore the ideas of leadership. Hawk Roosting explores a powerful leader like the hawk, whereas Ozymandias explores a powerful leader who now, due to time, has been forgotten. So that could be an interesting comparison there. One person who feels like he's currently leading, and then another leader who has been forgotten. You could compare to the prelude because you could look at the idea of nature. In this poem, nature is, can be interpreted as being very dangerous and deadly. And you can also find evidence of nature being dangerous and big and threatening in the prelude as well. Finally, you could look at Death of a Naturalist. Death of a Naturalist is also a poem about nature. It talks about frogs in particular. And just like Hawk Roosting, there is a semantic field of war. So just like Hawk Roosting, there's the semantic field of war. So you can look at the comparisons there. Both of them describe nature in a warlike manner.